hey there, how's it going? My name's Jeff. Welcome to the channel. And if you're a longtime viewer, then welcome back. It's great to be here with you guys. And I just wanted to do a video today about Aspen Aerogels. This is a company that a lot of you guys have asked me about, and I thought, you know, it's about time I revisit this company. A year ago, I was very excited, and I think a lot of people in the markets were, and this stock was doing really well. I don't even remember how high it got. I remember at one point screenshotting the chart, and this stock was at like $24 a share. I haven't checked it lately. I know that's kind of funny because I'm doing a video about the stock, but I think it's fallen so far. It may be down in the $5 or $6 range, which to me seems like a very low price for a stock. So I think a lot of you guys, some of you own the stock, and some of you maybe are thinking about it, have asked me, like, you know, what do you think about the company? What's going on? So I'll tell you my my honest thoughts about this. And before I start, I just like to say that this is not financial advice, but it's not just something, it's not just something I say. You know, like as a disclaimer. I say it because I think there's a tendency, I'll just be really brief, for a lot of people on YouTube to say stuff like it's a fact or as though they know something. And I think as a viewer, there's a danger that if somebody seems confident enough that they must be right. Well, these are my opinions, and I could be really wrong about Aspen Aerogels. But having said that, let me tell you, by the way, I'm walking in this water right now. Oh, it's so nice. It's like, it's cold, but it's not too cold. And it feels really just very invigorating. I notice my face is really in shadow here. It's just the sun is like right above, so it's a little hard to see. Here, maybe you can see me better like this. Okay, so here's the deal on Aspen. This company was doing great last year because there was a lot of demand for electric vehicles and all of the components that go into making them. And Aspen Aerogels makes a crucial part, this pyro-thin insulation material which prevents the batteries from being involved in these runaway fires where the explosions can just go from cell to cell. Anyway, when EV sales slowed down at the end of last year, beginning of 2025, this company took a big hit because they are very strongly linked to EV sales. One thing that I noticed that I didn't know is that Tesla does not buy from them. So the problems Tesla is having and the slowdown in demand for Teslas has not necessarily affected Aspen Aerogels. But this EV tax credit that was available to incentivize people to buy electric vehicles is going away, and that means that people will probably in the near term not be buying as many electric vehicles, which then in turn means that Aspen Aerogels will not be selling as much of this pyro-thin insulation to the manufacturers who buy from them. Now, I haven't looked recently at their list of buyers, but I seem to recall that GM is one of their major buyers, and they have a lot of other companies in the US who make EVs who buy from them. So the problem is that as these companies sell fewer and fewer EVs, Aspen's selling less and less product. Let's get to some numbers. In the first quarter of 2025, they just reported that they had revenues of $78 million. And this compares to last year at the end of the first quarter, they had $94 million in revenues. Now this is a problem because investors want to see that number going up. They want to see a company that's growing. And Aspen Aerogels, if you're buying this stock, it's a very small cap stock, you have to be hoping that this is a growth company. So when people see things going backwards, I think they bail. And I think that's why the stock price went down. I want to share with you the exact specifics. Total revenue for the first quarter of 2025, $78.7 million compared to $94.5 million in the first quarter last year. So growth has slowed, and that means that this company is probably going to be making less money than investors expected. Now, the other problem was that the net loss was $301.2 million. And this is primarily because they had a big plant in Statesboro, Georgia, that they opened last year, anticipating much more demand for their product. And I think when they realized they weren't going to be using it and they weren't going to need that much production facility, they had to close down Statesboro. So the net loss was $301.2 million, which included a $286.6 million impairment charge in connection with the demobilization of the company's previously planned second aerogel manufacturing plant in Statesboro. So, you know, what we're looking at here is that the earnings for the first quarter were $4.9 million compared to $12.9 million in the first quarter last year. So they were almost 1/3 of what their sales were just this time a year ago. So I think that, you know, I'll tell you about my own. First, as disclosure, I do own my shares of Aspen Aerogels. I'm still an owner. And this probably biases my thinking. You know, maybe if I didn't own it, it would be easier to say, oh, this is a mistake and this company has some big problems. Sometimes I think there's a bias. If you're an owner of the stock, you tend to look at things in a more optimistic way. So just keep that in mind, that I could be seeing this the wrong way. But I sold off a few of my small cap stocks this year because I needed to raise some cash, and I decided to keep Aspen Aerogels and a few other companies that I bought last year, simply because I think selling a company because everyone else sold it and the stock price is really low, to me that just doesn't sit right. I don't like selling things when they're really cheap. Just like I don't like buying things when they're really expensive. So I feel like I'd rather just hold it through times like these when we have this kind of maximum pessimism, because let's just look at one scenario. One scenario is in a year or two from now, this stock could be $2 or $1, and I'm gonna go, oh my gosh, I should have sold it. But what if this company is actually doing well, and you know, despite the problems that they're having with decreased demand for EVs, and in a couple of years this is back up to 15, 20, 30, 40, who knows, way beyond that maybe. I'm gonna regret selling at $5. I'm gonna say, just because things got bad back in 2025 with the tariff fears and all this, was that a really good reason to bail on the stock? So I just continue to hold. I want to share with you some comments by the CEO. Keep in mind, whenever CEOs are talking about their company, they are embellishing, they are making things look a lot more pretty and beautiful and rosy than they probably really are. There are a few exceptions, but a lot of CEOs take that into consideration. They want to keep their jobs, and if they say that they're failing or screwing up, they're probably not going to keep those jobs. So the CEO of Don Young, he's speaking. He says, we continue to drive the key elements of our strategy by broadening our thermal barrier and energy industrial commercial activities, fortifying our supply chain, and optimizing our cost structure. We're encouraged by the record level quoting activity in our PyroThin thermal barrier business. The newest PyroThin award demonstrates our value in additional electric vehicle form factors and chemistries. Meanwhile, our energy industrial segment is now equipped with the supply needed to pursue additional geographies and end markets to drive incremental growth. So what are they saying? Well, they have some customers. For example, in Thailand, there's a liquefied natural gas receiving terminal that just purchased Aspen Aerogels to keep the pipes in their industrial facilities cold. They have to keep these materials cold. So they have customers in countries like Thailand, and they also have a manufacturing facility in Mexico. And so I think they're looking to sell industrial material, meaning aerogel material, in other places, kind of making it sound as though just because EV demand has slowed, it doesn't mean that they're totally out of business. Now, I think we need to take this with a grain of salt. I'll tell you why. when you invest in small cap companies, a lot of these companies just have one product. And even though it seems as though they're selling to a lot of different markets like industrial, etc., I think most of the excitement and hype about Aspen Aerogels and their future is linked to electric vehicle sales. So I think talking about selling to other markets and selling to other industries, while it may be true, I just think that that is like being cup half full. But I think that really Aspen Aerogel's future is linked to EV car sales. If in 2 years or 3 years or 4 or 5 EV car sales return for whatever reason, whether it's governmental credits or incentives or whatever, I think that this is good for Aspen Aerogels. But if things slow down for EV cars, I just think that that's going to really hurt this business. What else does he say here? Our recent and continuing actions to reduce fixed costs are an example of an ongoing focus on our financial performance and strong balance sheet. And then they have a financial outlook for Q2 of 2025. I think that's baloney. Who cares about someone's outlook? Forecasts are really worthless. So those are just my thoughts. I guess to be very candid, I want to say something that probably is obvious, but buying a small cap stock is super risky. Buying any single stock has a lot of risk because that company could, have problems and you're just owning a stock. That's why owning, for example, an index fund or an ETF that's diversified makes so much sense for so many investors. Again, I'm not advising you, I'm just stating some facts here. Diversification reduces single stock risk. If you're gonna buy one stock, if it's a diversified company, for example, like Berkshire Hathaway or Amazon, they have many, many different levers that they can pull. They have a lot of different cash flowing from many different subsidiaries. So if one doesn't do so well, they've got a lot of other things to cover them. For example, with Amazon, yes, they have their retail business, but they have AWS, they have cloud services, they have all kinds of AI projects in the works, and they have streaming services, they have everything going on at once, so they're not dependent on any one thing. Aspen Aerogels is dependent on Aspen Aerogel material, and that is a highly risky bet. And I think that's a good thing to pull forward from this whole examination into this company is, what can we learn? If you either own the stock and you're trying to think, oh gosh, the price has come down, what should I do? I think the mistake that some investors might make, and I think I might include myself in this because I own the stock and it came down a lot. But keep in mind, if the stock had doubled or tripled, I would be talking to you about how smart I was. So, this is kind of goes either way. But I think that the problem is not realizing that one product line is a very narrow thing to hitch your cart to. And if that dries up or changes, it can really affect the whole stock price in a very dramatic way. I'm going to be doing a video soon on Onto Innovation, another company based in Massachusetts where I'm talking to you from. By the way, Aspen Aerogels is based right here in Massachusetts as well, which is why I think it's a kind of cool topic to cover today. But I'll just mention briefly, Onto Innovations came out with an earnings report 2 days ago, which was stellar, really good, and the stock fell 30% in one day. And they don't only have one product, they have a whole line of equipment that they make, but they are in the metrology inspection. They make capital equipment for the semiconductor industry, and I think there is so much fear and doubt about what's going on with AI and what's going to happen with semiconductor stocks that even when you come out with good news and positive earnings and you're profitable, the stock can get slammed. So back to Aspen Aerogels, very small company stocks, high upside potential, but also high downside potential. And I think that just looking at this, we're seeing what can happen when you put your eggs in a basket of a $1 billion company. I believe Aspen Aerogels was about $1 billion market cap when I bought it, but having come down as far as it has recently, I would not be surprised. In fact, in real time right now, through the power of the internet and cellular phones, I am going to check out Aspen Aerogels, ASPN. The market cap of this company, $407 million. So this company is less than half the market cap that it was a year ago. Because when I invested, it was $1 billion. So it just shows how sensitive companies like this are. I think that I will continue investing in small cap stocks. Oh, this is so nice. Look, I just found a beautiful shell. I think this might be an oyster shell. I think I'm going to continue investing in small cap stocks because I love the challenge. I love learning about these things and the kind of intellectual curiosity that it satisfies in just reading and learning and processing all these ideas. However, I will be more mindful of learning more about the different things that can affect the what if question. These are qualitative questions. Well, what if demand for electric vehicles dries up? Okay, that's a what if question. And I don't think I asked that about Aspen Aerogels. I was just pretty excited to find a company that was small, that was growing, and it was profitable, and it was doing well. But I didn't ask that what if question. And I think those are the questions, if you're investing not only in companies attached to electric vehicles like Aspen, but if you're investing directly in another EV company like Rivian, for example. And I own some shares of Rivian that I bought a long time ago. But the question is, what if? What if demand for electric vehicles dissipates or dies down? What happens to a stock like that? Another what if that I've been thinking about in regard to Rivian, I was thinking, well, what if this tariff thing is serious and the tariffs are all on foreign vehicles coming to the US? Well, Rivian's a US based company, so they won't have those tariffs. So if people decide to get back into buying EVs, it's a US based company like Rivian, they might be in a really good position. So that's another what if question. So a lot of times I think we just have to ask a lot of those qualitative questions. What is the moat? How strong is this company? What are the other companies making similar products? And that's one thing that I really like about Aspen Aerogels is I just didn't find many other companies making Aspen Aerogel, this pyrothin material. I think, and I might be wrong on this, but I think they're one of the few. Obviously, Tesla uses a material like this, but they don't buy from Aspen Aerogels. So whether Tesla makes it themselves or has their own manufacturer, I'm not sure. But that's something I think worth doing a little more research on is, does Aspen Aerogels have competition? And if they don't, then it could just be a matter of demand for EVs picking up. And if they're one of the only suppliers of this material, then perhaps their sales will pick up. And the final note I want to leave you with is just that, a stock is just a piece of a business. Sometimes I think if you're staring at your computer screen or your phone enough and watching the line move up and down, you can forget that that's actually just a representation of investors' emotional response to whatever's going on in the market, in the news, in the economy, or in politics. But in reality, it's a company, and how is their business operating? What's affecting them? And when companies are selling a lot of stuff and people are really excited about their future, well, the earnings tend to rise with more sales and more profits, and as that rises, stock prices tend to go up as well. Everything kind of moves up together. I think what's interesting is when you have a company whose earnings are rising, but the stock price is falling. And those are the situations that I think are worth really looking out for. For me right now, I think that Onto Innovation and Axcelis Technologies are two really interesting companies because they are both profitable companies, but if you look at the charts of their stocks, if you pull them up, Onto Innovation is ONTO and Axcelis is ACLS, you'll see that their stocks have just been going down. But I think their earnings are actually pretty good. So those situations are ones where maybe we're able to buy in at low prices the shares of stocks of businesses that are actually doing pretty well. But you have to do a lot of reading and research and figure out and make sure that the companies are in good shape before you buy those. And Aspen Aerogels, I do not think fits that category because while their stock price is definitely going down, can you see that? Aspen Aerogels price of stock is going down. I do not see their profits going up right now. This might be one of those wait and see situations. In retrospect, looking back, I think if I had noticed that EV sales would be going down and how much Aspen Aerogels would be affected by that, I think I might have exited my position earlier and taken that money and put it into a business, the stock of a business that I think looks like it's growing right now and not facing the same headwinds. But right now we've just got the headwinds on Aspen Aerogels, and as I said, at $5 a share or wherever it is now, I can give you an accurate, up-to-date, why not, right? It's a video about Aspen Aerogels. All right, $4.98. I wasn't off too far, right, in my $5 guess. So at $4.98, I just don't want to sell my shares. I think that the pessimism is baked into the stock price, and selling now would kind of be just, you know, getting rid of shares at $5 a throw doesn't make like a lot of sense to me. So those are my thoughts on Aspen Aerogels. Thank you to those of you who said, hey, make a new video, make an update. Again, still holding my shares, still optimistic, but let's be realistic. It's a very small company. It's lost half of its market cap in a year, and things with electric vehicles are really uncertain. So be grounded in reality, don't fool yourself, and remember the easiest person to fool is yourself. And yeah, thanks. Put comments, questions in the comment section. I love to hear from you guys. Let me know your thoughts about Aspen Aerogels and any other companies that I've discussed or we've discussed on this channel. And thanks so much for spending the time today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.